And 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to Property Matters on Dublin South FM with myself, Carol Tallon. You can contact us on social media at iPropertyRadio or email hello@iPropertyRadio.com. Joining us this week, returning to the show, is Natasha Rocca Devine of the Interiors NRD Studio, NRD. Most people will be familiar with Natasha's work if you're involved in property at all, or if you're used to looking at just beautiful interiors online. Natasha, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for joining us again today.
Thank you for having me. I very much appreciate it. And I've been loving all of your work ever since I've been on the show. So thank you for continuing to inspire myself and everyone else.
You're very good. Thank you. So again, you were on the show previously and you were talking about something that isn't very well known in Ireland, but yet is so well known in every other developed real estate market around the world. So that is property staging. So you might just tell us a little bit about the work of your studio.
So I primarily focused on staging. I've worked in LA as an estate agent, and over there learned that, image is everything, and preparing the property for sale or rental is going to really impact the sale, the sale price and the pace of sale. So coming back to Ireland, I started off consulting, and I've worked with a lot of estate agents like Knight Frank, Owen Riley, and different private clients, and also developers like Hollybrook Homes. So essentially, I need to make the home or the show home as beautiful as possible, as unique as possible, and to attract different types of buyers. It's not just coming in and having it looking great for a niche market. And Ireland is a lot more multicultural now. So I have to, obviously, when I'm designing, be appropriate to different types of buyers, from not only local, but global clients. So yeah, it's very exciting. And I also do consulting. I'm branching into more online consulting now, and more styling. That's where I want to move to for, more families and people who, don't necessarily want, a whole package of a show home or an interior design or staging project. So that's where I think is very exciting, for people who can just do something, a few quick tips. So I'm moving more into that as after lockdowns and things, just mixing things up a bit.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Just this morning, just this morning on News Talk, we heard an estate agent, I think from the Mayo region, talking about how the length of sale a property sits on the market from this year to last has actually doubled. Now, it was coming off quite a fast base for that locality, but the reality is we're starting to see some little signs of a slowdown, and these have been appearing in other jurisdictions across North America, in different European markets, certainly in the UK. So I don't know, maybe in Ireland there was a little bit of artificial thinking that we wouldn't be affected because we still have consistent demand and there's such an undersupply of homes. But actually now, only in the last week, we are starting to see a softening of demand. So how important is it then, for if people are thinking of bringing their homes to the market now, knowing that it might well be the top of the market, what are the things that can really encourage buyers to see the potential in a home?
I think you're absolutely right. And I think there's two times staging is really important. One, when it's really competitive, like LA or Ireland in the last kind of few years. And now if there's a slowdown, you have to stand out more than ever. And every month or week you're off you're holding that property, you're missing out on rent, you're missing out on other people are moving out and, they're renting another property. So there's a lot of loss in those, that time. So investing money in, a small chunk of money, whatever you have, to, just clean the property, get a deep clean the windows, freshen up with paint. I always say remove furniture versus add or shuffle it around the property. So look at the plans and see where everything could go. And, could that chair be adapted into that room? If you can't afford to add, invest in new furniture, just moving things around and changing up the space. And then obviously, if you have the budget, you can pick an exciting theme, like an Art Deco theme or a 1960s theme, or depending on the property itself, if it's a Georgian house or a modern house. And then, invest in accessories, lighting, rugs, art and things appropriate to that style. But, on a very basic level, investing, whatever that is, people are, nervous to invest back, because if you don't know about staging, like why would you invest? But I do think right now you're absolutely right that we're in a very unique time where those weeks waiting around for people to even to come and see it, let alone buy, are going to be a huge loss. So investing in just very basic, I have lots of different tips, but just on a very basic level, cleaning, painting, and then just like freshening it up. And then obviously you can go on a much larger scale and put wallpaper in, and you might think that's very, a bit mad to do that when you're actually selling it, but that's going to attract a lot of different buyers. And we're in a very image-based culture now with Instagram, Pinterest, social media. It's very competitive and visual, VR, like everything being online, and a lot of people are coming from different counties or different countries to see properties. So your visuals are going to be the selling point. So I just think very simple. And then obviously, if you have more money, you can invest in more and more things.
Yeah, you said something there at the start that really struck me, and that is, when you're going into staging, particularly a new homes development, that you want them to be unique. And whenever I think of show houses, I never think of unique. I mean, they're usually beautifully presented, but you could be in any show house. So in terms of staging, how can you make it unique, particularly if you're working with there are developers in Ireland that have outstanding reputations. They're known for delivering not just quality homes, but quality uh, neighborhoods. So it's about more than the home. It's about the entire neighborhood vibe. How can you make these homes unique?
I think a really important factor, if you look on my website, you can see that each of my show homes are very different. And I think it's about keeping it like what you said, the local community. So I have designed a recent show home for Foxborough by Hollybrook and Portlaoise. So that was for me, it was one of my more muted, low key types of designs, but it was loved by the local community because it's very appropriate. And I might have just done simple things like had navy throws and like navy lampshades and just put in some kind of unique art, and then did like a bookshelf wall versus just, keeping it very, something a bit more exciting and loads of accessories. It's still very calm and family focused because, it was meant to be for people who are commuting to Dublin, like a home office, a desk in each room. But I had subtle things that, just made it stand out, that it wasn't just very, very plain show home. And I think that's where, like, I had a navy couch versus a grey couch, just simple things. So I think you can thread in small details of uniqueness in say a very, show home, if you want to keep it low key, or in someone's private home. But I always go brave. And I feel like I say this to people, there's different scales of show homes. That one was, just more relaxed, and it was perfect for the location. Whereas for Rob's Wool by Hollybrook and Malahide, I had an Art Deco Gatsby theme. And I think for someone who's living in, a gorgeous development like Rob's Wool, or, a city apartment, you can go brave, like wherever it is, if it's in Galway or Dublin or Cork, and, you can really brave it up and put in wallpaper and make it exciting. Like Irish people are so stylish. And so, I think we're very artistic. I think we kind of play it down, but I think we love, kind of anything that stands out. So I actually think, depending on the location and obviously the property and your budget, you can really, make it unique in large or small ways, and I think people think, okay, I don't have money and it's a small apartment, so I'm just going to keep it really simple. But put in maybe some fun art, like even if it's 3 or 4 kind of really stylish posters, or, you could put in something like, I don't know, like in the Beatles, and just put in some like musical instruments. Like this is my boyfriend's music room in the background, and we're in London for meetings and stuff. So I like, you can put in just threads of music as an example for a theme. You could have like a music wallpaper, or you could have in like just, I don't know, just posters from a band you like. It doesn't have to be on a huge scale, but I think people think all or nothing. I don't know if you agree. They feel like they have to go really simple or really big. And I'm encouraging people to kind of add in small touches of character. And I think that's just such an exciting part of the staging, is that you don't have to live there and stay there, and the people might take it out, but it's kind of an opportunity to have a gallery. It's a fun time that you can just make this apartment whatever you want, or home. So I think that's something that I really want to encourage. And I think staging is only becoming more common now. So the more people know, the more people can kind of mix it up and make it their own.
I love the idea of doing this, but actually, that really comes back to your initial comment there about catering to different types of buyers. I think in Ireland, maybe the industry has not been great at doing that, and we like to make things so generic that they would fit anybody, even
Which
though
is
we know
good too, yeah.
it's more likely to be a family, or it's more likely to be professionals at a certain stage of their life, or we know who the likely buyers or occupants are going to be, and yet we don't design for them, almost in fear of alienating others. And we tend to go very, very safe. So it's very rare that I would walk into a property that's on the market, and sometimes you don't know if it's been staged or not, but it's very rare that you would walk in and you would see the personality, not just of the people who are there or who designed it, but the people who are hoping to occupy it. So, for example, when we came on this call, the first thing I noticed was the drum kit and the
My
I'm
boyfriend is
sure
very good at music. Yeah, he has a music room,
like
and everyone has interests. Everyone has art,
personality.
music, person, whatever it is, that you have to offer. I actually think, to be honest, people come to me, and it's probably bad business, but people have come to me and they've shown me their properties and things, and I'm saying that you don't need to do as much. What you have is such character. Some people I would say take down family photos, anything private. But actually, sometimes what they've done is taking away the character and putting in the simple actually detracts people. Even if I always think, even if you come in and you don't like the Beatles or whoever, at least you've seen it, you're going to remember it. Like everyone is, we're all clever enough to imagine it without that. Like it doesn't have to be anything too crazy. But I do actually think that sometimes by taking away the character, particularly for secondhand homes, I would work with clients who would have things, and I'd say no, 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 leave that. They'd have really cool art or things like that, and I would say leave the character, and then I can work around that. So I think that's a really good point. It doesn't have to be extreme. It doesn't have to be completely a music room or completely like simple, which is lovely, just to be clear. It's very much lovely. But I do think that we have to kind of think, every Irish people and everyone living in Ireland, regardless of where you're from, what age you are, we all have interests. We all like music or art or something. So when someone comes in, whether they love it or not, they're going to appreciate it. So I think it brings out the emotion in the space. And I think that's something that staging is meant to do. We're meant to evoke emotion. So if you come in and you say it's beautiful, whereas if you come in and whether you like something or dislike it, it's evoking something in you, and it's reminding you of a band you like, or music, or a concert you went to, as an example, from a music perspective. But regardless of what the theme is, if it's 1960s, maybe it reminds you of a happy time in your life, or your favorite movie, or a style you like in fashion. And I just think that it's the way it's done is really important. It doesn't have to be overdone. It can be very, very subtle in terms of one bookshelf or one feature wall, with prints or photographs, or like a James Dean poster or something. Like I did something like that in a show home under kind of a really sleek chair, and it was like a lounge. It looked like a boutique hotel, sitting in the reception. So it doesn't have to be huge. It can just be threaded through. And I think it's just a matter of, like any trend, it has to be done. And then once it's done, I think more people will do it. And particularly now, if the market is softening, we need to think outside the box. And there'll always be room for safe, and there'll always be room, and I love it. But I think, why not add the character? And particularly for people who are selling with an estate agent, if it's not a show home, I think character is key. I think it's gorgeous.
And Natasha, do you think our relationships with our homes, whether they're rented or our the homes we own, I think our relationships with our surroundings really changed during COVID, particularly during kind of the lockdowns and the 2K rules. Um, how is that impacting, or how has COVID-19 impacted staging for sale? Has it brought in any issues?
On a personal level, I think that staging has completely changed insofar as um it's more the high end buyers now. I think we discussed that briefly offline. It's more high end buyers and the developers who, people who've always wanted and always thought of it as a unique thing. But because of people living at home, I think everyone is a DIY expert, which is amazing. The really great videos. I think a lot of people use that time to paint the rooms or wallpaper, or just renovate rooms, or after, since they have, when things opened up, they've become more kind of DIY experts. So I think staging has softened. I think the market's slower in terms of the private clients. I think and I think that's probably to do with the fact that people just did a lot themselves and they feel more confident, which is great. But I do think there's a market for an in-between. I think I said that to you, the styling part. or someone like me could come in, or myself could come in and show you just quick tips, pre-listing, just show you tips just to help you. That's always going to be needed, because I think it's just sometimes fresh eyes coming in, particularly a specialist like myself or you, or a friend or family member. But I do think on the general, kind of, so middle ground, like 500,000 apartments, like euro apartments, I think they're softening. I think people are nervous to spend now a little bit. And then obviously the kind of more low end people weren't really spending. So I think there's a market for styling where you show people and they can do it themselves. But I think that's just something that needs to open up. It's not very common in Ireland, for people to hire an interior stylist. I think that's something that needs to be kind of tapped on. But I do think the market's changed, and I think people are nervous now with the economy to spend again. They're a little bit apprehensive. I've seen a slowing, and a softening, but I think that will just, it's all reflective of the news. And I think Irish people are very affected by markets and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. I think it's only early stages, but I have noticed a lot of people coming to me more. They want to have a small section versus invest in the whole house, or they want more interior design versus staging. Because a lot of them can't afford to buy a new house. They had that dream to buy a bigger house at a certain age and they can't. So all of these kind of outside market influences are coming in. So yeah, I think it's just, we'll see how that goes. I don't think it's been a long enough trajectory to see, but I think we discussed that. I think it's the beginning of things, kind of the market reflecting outside influences.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're using a couple of different terms there, and as somebody who's not an interior designer, I'm just wondering, maybe amongst our audience as well, and amongst your clients, do you think that people are confused between what is interior design versus what is home staging, or what is
Definitely,
home
yeah.
design?
I think there's a lot of people, and I think interior design is, well, it can be of any level, but generally speaking, you have an interior designer to come in and work with you on whatever basis, but it's to stay in your home. That would be the purpose, would be to remain there, whereas interior staging is to leave it. I think that's a very basic way of looking at it. So you're hiring someone to help you get rid of the property, to sell it, or to rent it out to regular clients, or people annually. So I think a lot of people naturally would think, well, why would I put money in to make it look great if I'm leaving? I don't even get to benefit from it. Naturally, Irish people, we're quite, I think people are quite funny and a bit skeptical of things. So I think naturally in interior design, it seems like a no-brainer. Of course, I'm going to stay here. My family and I, or my single person, can enjoy it, or roommates or tenants. Whereas staging is very much, well, like there's a kind of a mind block on it. Why would I invest to leave? So I think that's something that people, when they come to me, that, there's a lot of kind of negotiating and discussing it. And then styling would be in between the both, I think, because you could style for an interior design client, people who want to freshen up their home, they just need a spring clean, or styling pre-listing, which we discussed, helping people either just giving them consulting or going in and actually practically doing that. So styling will be in between the two. And I think that's something everyone would understand. And I think that's the soft, I think that's the market that I will have to work upon over the next few years, but with the market changing, because I think interior design people are going to be nervous to invest money, lots of money in that, or they'll want to do DIY. And interior staging people are nervous to invest because the market, they don't know if A, they can get a mortgage and move on to somewhere bigger, and B, if things are going to sell. So, but I would contradict that, or I would challenge that and say, actually do invest, because that will get you the money to buy the bigger property. Like that investment at the beginning will give you, my properties have sold between 10 to 25% in price increase on any project I've done, or like the show homes have sold out. So there's there's statistics to prove you will make money and it will increase the pace of sale. Like there's proof in it. Yeah, I think just if you think about it in a very practical way.
Do you think that's actually maybe what we need to do for this sector, actually, is to establish the business case for it? Because the reality is, I mean, just earlier in the interview there, I mentioned that this estate agent in the west of Ireland was talking about the length of time it's taking, doubling. And most estate agents know the danger of a lengthier time a property sitting on the market, because things are impacted, like the potential buyers, their approved their approved mortgage can run out.
Mm.
There are lots of different things can happen where there's, like anything, the longer the duration, then the more things that can go wrong. So there's so many reasons for that. But do you think maybe the staging sector in Ireland needs to put together a really good commercial case as to, okay, these are what we know, we know that we can increase the speed at which the property sells. We know
Yeah,
we
I actually think there should be, I know I'm a member of the Home Staging Association of UK and Ireland, and obviously they have statistics from Ireland, but they are very limited because, they're trying to get grasp with straws and get information. And obviously they have it on their website and that, but it's primarily the UK statistics, which we work from, or they work from. And I obviously apply to people. But I do actually I think there's room, and it's something I'm, want to work on. At the moment, I'm actually talking to some radio stations about doing a podcast or a show on it, because I feel like there's something there that, like, not to sell my business, but just like to help to educate everyone. There's statistics to prove this. We're in a very unique time. There's a housing crisis, particularly for students and people who want to, like, invest in Ireland for their studies and things like that. There's a time now where this is needed. This is absolutely needed, not necessarily just the staging, but say the styling, to invest in business models and statistics to explain what this is, how it can benefit you, and why we all need it. As an example, in LA, when you're an estate agent, you have a staging budget in your property. And this could be for like a $200,000 home. I'm not just saying it's for like the multi-million, which is obviously LA is known for. So this is like, that's the way it should be. There should be a styling budget, or like it should be the go-to for everyone, like it should be kind of like part of the package. And I think until people are educated enough, I think I really want to do a radio show on it, but ideally maybe a TV show, to show this. I think there's a missing link here, because I think we need this more than ever. The market needs it, and regardless of if you hire someone or you do this yourself, but the business model. And I'm actually, I've wrote a book, which I'm working in the publishing side of it now. And I'm putting in, all of these tips and tricks, and you can apply this yourself. It's just a time factor, and obviously having the right support around and teams. But I don't think this has to be done by myself. It can be done by you. It's just what it needs to be done. We need to apply this as like a go-to for agents, for private clients. You should never look at a photo. We discussed this online with beds not made in rubbish everywhere and things like that. Like, it's not even to be judgmental. It's just, it should be like a go-to, that we have a certain standard. And then there's respect, I think, for the industry, like for the estate agents and for the buyers, and people investing their money and time into this. There should be kind of a standard across the board of what's expected when you're selling or renting. And you hear these horror stories, particularly with renting, and it shocks me, but where people have to, like, live in like, it's just awful what they're allowed to sell and rent, or allowed to offer to rent, but that shouldn't be allowed. And that would just cut all that out if we had kind of generic expectations across the board of what the standards are in Ireland. And I think it's just, it needs to be opened up.
Genuinely, I agree with you. And in fact, it's touching on one of the issues that we talk about regularly on the show here, and that is in Ireland, estate agents and auctioneers, they have been pushed down on prices so much. So actually the commission rates in Ireland are so low for the amount of work that's required, that actually there's no margin there for things like investing in really getting the property in its best condition, or investing in the best technology to provide the best customer service, which is required. So actually there are so many ways where the Irish sector, or the Irish real estate industry, will struggle to deliver the standards that you're talking about there, because actually the margins are much, much, much too low. They're just too
low. Exactly. No, exactly. And that's why I'm saying, that's why I was inclined to write my book and to teach people how to help themselves. That's the idea of it, in terms of just styling and interior staging, and then there's an element of interior design in it. But I do think that I have information, and like yourself, and I feel like it needs to get into the hands of the public and become more standardized. And that's process, and these things take time, and I'm not saying I can do it by myself, but I do think that if everyone realizes that, then people realize the importance of it, and then in money will be expected in that, in that budget, and people will know they have to pay their estate agent more, or, when you're renting, you can't treat tenants like this. There has to be a certain standard. And I think, naturally, these things take time, but I think now more than ever, money, is so important. People are working so hard, and it's been a very unique time with lockdowns. And if you're putting every penny to buy this property, your dream home, which is really tough right now, or to rent in Dublin, which is very expensive, or around Ireland, you deserve, a nice place. The estate agent or the client should have prepared this property, staged it or styled it in a very respectful way for you. And then naturally on the positive for the estate agent and the person selling it, they're going to make money, So for me, it seems like a simple solution. And I think it's just an education of, the statistics and the positives from it and the results. And I think once people know that, then they'll realize the importance of it, and it will just like ripple across as kind of a standardized thing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you said,
It's
it's just spending money.
genuine, Natasha. I fully agree with you, and I really hope that that's the direction it goes. But one of the biggest things is that actually, um, there needs to be a much deeper appreciation about the process of buying and selling properties. If we want the process to be more professional, to a higher standard, better quality, better customer care, better service, then actually it needs to be a more valued transaction. And I say that I'm not an estate agent, nor have I ever been an estate agent, but I think that the industry has been, um, there's been a race to the bottom in recent decades that is really unhelpful, not just for the industry, but for consumers looking to use it as well. So actually a return to better standards. And I think that people have come to expect a better level of care throughout all of the transactions in their life, and property is no different. So actually I'm really happy to see that a raising of the bar, because I think it would benefit not just the industry but consumers as well. And before
Oh
we
yeah,
go,
absolutely.
Natasha, you might just remind people of your social media handles and where they can find you to get in touch with you when they're coming and thinking of listing their properties. One thing that hasn't changed, even though since the last recession, property is not as cyclical as it used to be. September is still always a big month for people bringing their homes to the market. So for anybody who's thinking of bringing their homes to the market in the next month or two, how can they contact you?
My website is the easiest way. It's www.theinteriors with an S nrd.com, and then all the details are there. And then my name, Natasha Rocca Devine, on social media, on Instagram and Twitter. So
Thank you so much, Natasha. I always learn so much, and I always enjoy talking to you. And I really want your uh, really your vision of what the market could be. I want this. I want this for the Irish market. I want it for Irish estate agents. I want it for Irish buyers and sellers. So I really hope that more people join with you, because you're right, it's a culture shift that needs to happen and somebody needs to start it. So thank you so much for the work you're doing in this regard, and congratulations on the book. I look forward to reading that when it's out. So
thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
my pleasure always. Thank you. So we need to
Thank
take a quick break. Stay tuned.